Greetings. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. Today we begin another book from Manly P. Hall. This book is titled Magic, a treatise on occultism. We're going to go through more of a general foundational study of the science of the occult. So, today we're going to read part 1. Let's begin. A treatise on natural occultism. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. Peace and greetings to everyone here today. DG, what's up? The Mental Goddess, peace and greetings. Valis, peace. MC Maestro, peace, peace. Chicken McNugget, peace. That slaps, peace. Elisha Eternal, peace. Welcome, welcome. Let's get started on. Oh, my microphone's not on.
Here we go. There we go. Let's get started on this thing. Tough. Good stuff. Sirius 2888. Peace. Peace to everybody here. So, we're going to do part 1. This book is in 3 parts. Roughly 15 pages each. Magic, a treatise on natural occultism by Manly P. Hall. Illustrations by M.D. Logan. Good stuff, good stuff. Part 1 is the children of the false darkness. Interesting, let's find out about this false darkness. What do you think it is? What do you think it could be? If there's a false darkness, and that means that there's a true darkness. So I wonder what he's referring to. I saw a lot of reference to Satan in this book. I also saw some Lucifer. So we'll be getting into some names and terms that people love to see in the occult. Yes. All right. Yeah. So if you like this, if you want to do more of this as time moves forward, hit the like button on this video, because that lets me know that you like it, and that lets YouTube know that you like it. That's more important. It's more important. If YouTube knows that you like it, then they're going to keep, sending this up the algorithm. Peace, peace. Hollow Vegeta. Nicole Berkeley, peace. Mo B, peace, peace. Did you get that thing that I sent? A picture of, at least. I had to find that one on my own. So, it's been a very peachy around here lately. That's not peach, that's lemon. There we go, peach. Well, you can't see it, but you know it's peach. Anyways, when I see peaches pop up, I also find that my interest in Ophiel's work begins to resurface. Bella says, please just read it. I love it when you ask nicely, of course, but... anyways. Ophiel was an extremely advanced occultist, let me tell you. This guy was way more in-depth with his knowledge than he led on. In fact, I believe that he intentionally wrote on like a 5th grade level, because he understood that that would be the path of least resistance to the observer. So, if you got some Ophiel stuff that you haven't tapped into, now might be a good time. Oh yeah. All right. All right. So let's get to it. Part 1. The children of the false. Please just read it. How you come into the chat and demand and rush me? I'm the one that posted the book and started the live stream in the first place. How you gonna rush me on my own video? That's funny. Young person. What I tell you, TikTok generation. Anyways. The children of the false darkness. Number 1. For ages, man has labored under a misunderstanding. He has called the perversion of occult power black magic. This is an improper use of the word black, for black does not mean evil. Black is the basic not color of all things. It is the source of all being and represents the body of the absolute intelligence. All consciousness and light is born out of the chaotic blackness. And cosmic night, with its dark pralaya, is the father-mother of creation. Black darkness must forever shroud the workings of the infinite, and no matter how much light there is in the human soul, it is forever surrounded with the dark, seething substances of chaos. All manifestation is concretion of dark and unmeasured possibility. And understand that when we talk about chaos versus order, you know what I mean? When we deal with these evil spirits and whatnot, what we're really dealing with, Christ versus the works of darkness. It's not good versus evil, angels floating around the sky. What we're dealing with is, when we talk about the Christ or the enlightened one, this is an individual who is primarily purified consciousness. And what I mean by purified consciousness is a consciousness that does not believe that it is matter, a consciousness that is not intermingled and mixed up with matter. Whereas when we talk about chaos, darkness, and evil, we're dealing with matter that contains consciousness, but the identity is confused. So when we talk about unconditioned consciousness, what we're talking about is consciousness in its purified form. If unconditioned consciousness is what we strive for, then there would be an opposite, which is conditioned consciousness. And for lack of better words, that is consciousness which believes it is matter. Consciousness that is expressing itself through matter and believing that it's matter. That's evil. That's chaos. So when Christ drove away those demons and when Christ healed those people, what he was doing was setting order to chaos. Check. Right there, he was talking about all consciousness and light is born out of chaotic with its dark pralaya, is the father-mother of creation. Black darkness must forever shroud the workings of the infinite. And no matter how much light there is in the human soul, it is forever surrounded with the dark, seething substances of chaos. Substance, matter. All manifestation is a concretion of dark and unmeasured possibility. Number 2, the children of the dark birth who labor in the blackness of this substance, molding it into myriads of unseen and unmeasured forms, are not evil. They are the sons of Saturn, Satan, the black father who, like the very darkness of chaos itself, must in time swallow all of his creations and come back to life again from the death that men call creation. All right, so if you understand Kabbalah, if you understand the principles that we've gone over before, you'll know that once something has form, right, once pure force has become form, at the same time, it must reach a fate of death. Once it is born in form, it must die at some point. Because form is impermanent. All form is impermanent. Just having a form means that the form must be destroyed at some point within time. And you can only exist within time in form. So that's the concept of Saturn eating his own children. Saturn is the first stop on the descent, on the fall from heaven. The first stop where we gather form. So once we hit that stop, the only way to go back up is at some point, everything that we have formed must die, starting with the physical body. Okay, so the children of the dark birth who labor in the blackness of this substance, molding it into myriads of unseen and unmeasured forms, are not evil. They are the sons of Saturn, the black father who, like the very darkness of chaos itself, must in time swallow all of his creations, and in doing so bring them back to life again from the death that men call creation. From the death that men call creation. Got some glitching going on. Testing, testing. How's it looking? Or rather, I should say, how's it sounding? Okay, well, I'll keep going. Hello, hello. Good to go? Sly gives a thumbs up. Maestro says it's better on my laptop than my phone. Thank you, MC Maestro, for that donation. Thank you. Okay, so they're the sons of Saturn, and in time he must swallow them back again, bringing them back to life from the death that we call creation. We are all born out of this dark abyss and have no right to call it evil. It is the parent of gods and men, forever wrapped in the unexplorable robes of its own mystery. Remember how early speakers, such as Bobby Hemmett and others, talked about how we think about the gods as being the end-all be-all, but indeed the gods came from what some call the Titans. The gods came from other types of strange beings before them. We call them strange because they're so distant from us. They come from a space and time where humans did not exist. And this is where we get a lot of the mythology from H.P. Lovecraft. These strange, horrible creatures that drive men insane when witnessed. Because there's a concept of an existence before man, a primordial existence before man. Every single spiritual system has this. Every single creation story has this. Richard Tracy, peace. Alicia M, peace, peace. The great Strange ones, Dr. Strange. Alright, so we're all born out of this dark abyss, and we have no right to call it evil. It is the parent of gods and men, forever wrapped in the unexplorable robes of its own mystery. Out of this blackness, nature's unfathomed treasure house, man must exhume the stone of his own soul, in the same way that the miner removes a diamond from its sheath of black carbon. The magical magician, peace. So the very same way that we think about a miner going into a cave, going into the mine with his pickaxe, chipping away at that coal, chipping away until they come across a diamond. That's a lot of work before you find that valuable thing. You don't just walk in and grab one and walk out. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into mining and finding the valuable resources. A lot of man hours and manpower. So very much the same way. In order to find this soul that everyone talks about and everyone claims to have, in order to discover this aspect of consciousness, one has to work for it. And when I say work, I don't mean that this is some type of physical labor. There has to be a level of honest introspection, right? And a direction for that introspection. It isn't simply just asking, who am I? What am I here to do? Because the ego's going to come up with answers and you're going to stop asking those questions. Honestly, we went through a book that was called Gyan Yoga. You really want to go through that process of asking who I am, what I am. You might want to check this book out if you didn't read it with us earlier a year ago, right? But this even talks about an easy, or I should say a practical method and pattern of self-examination to find what and who it is that you are, right? It's called Gyan Yoga, JNANAYOGA. This is on YouTube, so you can screenshot it and whatnot. But a lot of you guys have already read it, and you'll know that he talked about this. In order to uncover the true self, it's not just asking, who am I? There's a process that involves being still. There's a process that involves analyzing the contents of the mind without becoming attached to those contents. But more on that later. Out of this blackness, out of this dark abyss, is where we must enter into in order to pull out that quality we call a soul. Number 3, the dark lords of Saturn are the builders of the first dawn, the morning of blackness, and from the friction of their strivings were born the first flaming sparks of dawning consciousness. The dark lords of Saturn are the builders of the first dawn, the morning of blackness, and from the friction of their strivings, were born the first flaming sparks of dawning consciousness. Now, if we were on the tree of life, we would more than likely be in the triple blackness still, right? Six, the Gypsy, peace. Dub VT, peace, peace. Al Dickey, peace. Stray Panther, peace. Valis asks, would you classify this work as Gnostic, alchemical, or Kabbalistic? The answer is yes. I wouldn't classify this work outside of what my intent and purpose is, right? So for me right now, I'm studying this book for Kabbalistic purposes. So I would say Kabbalistic. But if you, the observer, were to study it for alchemical purposes, you'd call it that. I label things based on their usefulness. You probably do the same. So, the first flaming sparks of dawning consciousness, which were born from the strivings of the Dark Lords of Saturn, they were the mind-born and are the Brahmins of our chain of globes, being delivered from the brain and mouth of Brahma. Their throne is made up of solid substance and the chemicals of solid matter. They are the satanic outpourings, the spirits of cold darkness. Now again, like I said, I'm reading this for Kabbalistic purposes, and what I see right away is that we've talked about the 4 worlds. If you understand Kabbalah, you know that there's this tree of life that exists as a reflection on 4 different levels. Now that upper level, the top level, known as Atziluth, is the unmanifest world, the prototype world even. This would be closer to what he's talking about as far as this darkness. And here's the thing, it's not like blackness. It's only dark because all of this darkness he's talking about, it's not like you look up into the sky and see a black sky. No, what he's talking about is a state of existence that is incomprehensible to the human mind. A state of existence that is incomprehensible to the human mind. So to us, it is darkness. It's darker than midnight. It's darker than the room with the lights out. It's darker than the night sky. It's darker than the eclipse. This darkness is a darkness of cognizance, a darkness of conception. We can't even conceive it other than through metaphor. Understand? Of course. Thank you, Moby. Thank you, Stray Panther. I appreciate you all. So, after that level, we've got the mind-born. He calls these the Brahmins, right? Now, the mind-born, that's a hint to me of the mental plane. And according to the Tree of Life, we can call that the plane of Bria. Right? So you got Atziluth, then you got Bria, then you got Yetzirah, then you have Asaya. These are 4 states of existence. They exist simultaneously, but an individual can exist on primarily one of those planes at a time. for us as human beings walking around on planet Earth and fully focused on our body, we're definitely on the lowest level of the lowest world, Asaya. The lowest part of the root buried in the dirt. All right, let's keep going. We got some good stuff on the way. 12 more pages or so. In the diagram that follows are shown the 4 births which has come out of the body of Brahm, the unknown blackness, the X of being. And I like how he spells that there. He spells Brahm as Aum, A-U-M, Aum, but he puts the BR in front of it. So again, if you have studied with some of the things I've talked about, namely the yoga stuff, the Samkhya stuff, you know that that level of Aum is preeminent and pre-existent to the elements. It's preeminent to the tattvas. Yeah. The unknown blackness, the X of being. Number 5. There is a false darkness and a true darkness. Okay, now we're getting to it. There's a false darkness and a true darkness. The true darkness is the womb of light. The false darkness, the perversion of the light that pours out of the true darkness. All right, so 2 different darknesses. One darkness is actually light. And like I said, that's the darkness that is only darkness to us because we cannot conceive of it. The brain, the mind, the imagination literally comes blank when we try to visualize or comprehend this. It goes blank. We have nothing to rely on. Usually to visualize and imagine something, we have a symbol, something to anchor onto, right? If you're having writer's block and you're trying to write an email, a book, a letter, you're trying to write something, right? A caption for your social media. Well, there is a force behind that, right? And the ancient Greeks called that force Mercury. So you could literally sit there, visualize an image of Mercury, however he appears to you. All right, you can imagine the Flash if you want to, but you have something to hold on to, something to anchor your focus on. And you can literally focus on that with all your might and envision this entity imbuing you with his power to help you do what you need to do. Maybe you'll get goosebumps, maybe you'll feel a slight breeze, maybe something will happen to affirm what you're doing. Now you got the power and you use it. That's how we work with the gods. There's a whole manner of different ways to go about a ritual. Some people like to do it in a very long and drawn out process because a book told them to do that. Hey, whatever works for you. But ultimately, when it comes to these gods, these things on the manifest plane, we have something to hold on to and perceive. Now, what he's talking about right here is beyond the realm of perception, beyond the realm of conception. Remember what I said earlier. The gods were birthed by what's the word? What's the word for I think it starts with an A. Primordial, that's it. The gods come from a primordial source, a prehistoric source, a source that comes way before man. So since what he's talking about here is a force that existed long before we did, we don't have any symbol or conception or some type of thing, an anchor to hold on to. We just have to accept that it's there based on inference, right? The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali talked about different ways to obtain knowledge, and so did that book that I just held up, Jnana Yoga. We can infer the existence of this blackness based on what we do know. We don't just guess and make shit up, especially after we see it on a YouTube video or a TikTok video. We can infer based on what we do understand. That's also what the Kabbalion talks about with the principle of correspondence. This is how scientists measure the planets by parallax, right? We don't actually go out to a planet and measure it with a ruler. We gauge it and triangulate it based on other things that we do know. So likewise, we don't know this darkness, but we can assume it exists based on what we do know. Now, that would represent the true darkness. Something that does indeed exist. It's just out of our reach. Now, the false darkness, we're talking about the perversion of the light that pours out of the true darkness. So it says natural darkness is the basic principle of things, while the false darkness is the result of debasing the power of the angels of Satan. 6. The devil, the archetype of misuse, is not a son of Saturn, but is a son of man. You see that? Son of man. The devil, as an archetype of misuse, is not a son of Saturn. It's a son of man. This is a result of human activity. This is why evil does not exist beyond the realm of human social activity and human interaction. Outside of human to human stuff, there is no evil. Evil's not out in space somewhere. Evil's not going anywhere up the tree other than the individual observer. If you find evil up there, it's because you brought it. If you find yourself in the astral plane and you're looking at some evil entities that are feeding off of mankind, you're looking in the mirror. You created that because that's what you programmed yourself to see, or allowed someone else to program you to see. Let's continue. The son of the devil, the archetype of misuse, is not a son of Saturn, but is a son of man, and the false darkness of earth. Man is the incarnation of the germ of mental intelligence, and black magic is possible only to intelligent beings. 7. Absolute spirit minus all the sheaths of vehicles, and we know that the sheaths of vehicles are the body, the physical body, the etheric body, the astral body, the mental body, the causal body. These are all the sheaths, the coverings, the envelopes of spirit. What he says here is absolute spirit minus all the sheaths of vehicles, right? So we're talking about something that's at the seed and the center of the etheric body, astral body, physical body. He says that this absolute spirit, unformed and uncompounded, is true darkness, the dimensionless basis of all that is, has been, or ever shall be, and the ultimate veil behind which all creation must retire. This is something that we're all returning to inevitably. What we're talking about here, you're hurtling towards it with no resistance. And the absolute spirit is true darkness, because can't nobody here comprehend it. Nobody here can define it. Not because of anyone, not because of anyone's lack of intelligence, but because it is something that has no equivalent in the manifest dimension. You get what I'm saying? Lance Benefield, peace, peace. Kevin Wise, peace. We grow natural, peace, and good to see you. MC Maestro says, knowing that all is a reflection of something higher, we can infer an unknown blackness. Yes, absolutely. Valis says, bro, the Saturn stuff is scary. I know what the star of Saturn is. It's pretty bad. No sigil is bad. No planet is bad. What you're talking about is human opinion. Human opinion is bad, right? Evil and badness doesn't go beyond the sphere of human social interactions. All that stuff is a product of human being interactions. It doesn't go past that point. There's no inherently evil sigil, planet, or anything of that nature. That just doesn't fit in the program with everything else. Because without an individual human being, how could it be evil? Sankofa Sound, peace. Sankofa Sound says man-made. Exactly. Thank you, Stray Panther. Sir Panther says, new folks in the chat, hit the like button. Help this info spread. Yes, yes. Smack the like button. Like I said, it does help the algorithm promote this type of content. All right, so let's continue. Again, the devil is a son of man. You may have heard that from Christian research. The devil being the son of man, what that means is the devil is a product of humanity, man-made. So, absolute spirit, again, is ultimate blackness, right? And remember what he said in the beginning. Black does not mean inherently evil. Honestly, what black means is that it is... How did he put it? He said non-something. What did he say? He said black is the basic not color of all things. A not color. And we're talking about unconditioned consciousness, right? Black is a not color. The black dot. Black is the color of ultimate spirit because it isn't conditioned into any other form. Hence why the Akasha egg is what color? The stuff will start making sense if you stay with it. Number 8. Absolute crystallization is the false darkness. What's absolute crystallization? The physical plane. Right? I am that I am says, that's your melanin. Right? See? Bobby Hemmett, man. A lot of people worship Bobby Hemmett just because they enjoy seeing a person that looks like him speak about occult stuff. But if you really listen to what he's saying and do your own research according to what he said, you'll find that this man was severely well studied. And what he said on his videos and lectures still holds up today. It doesn't change based on fads and opinions. But you know that, of course, because this is a chat full of people who actually research and take the time to do the work, as opposed to assuming and pretending. Oh, yeah. Sankofa Sound says Saturn helps you get shit done. Discipline. Exactly, because Saturn is the master of form. Alright, let's keep going. Absolute crystallization is the false darkness and is the colorless vibration at the lower end of the spectrum, opposing the colorless vibration at the upper end of the spectrum. So we've got a spectrum here. At the lower end is absolute crystallization. And that becomes a colorless vibration. That kind of gives me an image of looking at Malkuth and how it's typically represented as a mix and a blend of colors and shades. But a similar thing is happening at the top of the tree, Kether. Brilliant white light. Or not even white light, brilliance, pure brilliance. There isn't really a color associated with Kether because it is pure brilliance. So what he says here is absolute crystallization is the false darkness and is the colorless vibration at the lower end of the spectrum, opposing the colorless vibration at the upper end of the spectrum. My Kabbalist people here understand what I'm saying here. Both ends ultimately are swallowed up in darkness. Don't they say that Malkuth becomes the Clipoth? And don't we know that Kether becomes the triple blackness? Both ends of the spectrum are swallowed up in darkness. One in the darkness of spirit and the other in the darkness of matter. The Clipoth and the triple blackness of space. I'm telling you, he's talking about the Kabbalah just in different terms. And this goes to show that you can actually explain Kabbalah without using Kabbalistic names. I think for some people that actually would be easier because when we hear a word we've never heard before, our brain stops. A thought terminating cliche. Let's check out this image real quick. We've got a person here standing, and directly around his physical body is the etheric body. So notice how the etheric double takes on the shape of the physical body, because we've learned that the physical body and the etheric body are extremely closely related. In fact, the etheric body is an extension of the physical body. So when we talk about your chakras, that's not happening in your physical body. That's happening in the etheric aspect of your physical body. Very, very close, but you're not going to split open your guts and see chakra balls. These exist within that energetic layer of the body. And under certain circumstances, this energetic layer can be seen. It can be manipulated. Yes, it can. So next, after the etheric body, which surrounds the physical body, right? Because here's the physical, here's the etheric, now here's the astral. The astral becomes this egg type of shape around the physical and the etheric body. Now notice here on the cover of this book, it's a lot wider, right? The range expands from the etheric body to the astral body. And then, of course, the astral body that extends out much further than this, it's encompassed in the mental body. And look at what's happening here at his third eye center. These rays, these beams are shooting out. All three of these books were written around the same time period, by the way. MC Maestro says, can you read that last paragraph again? Absolutely. So, absolute crystallization is the false darkness and is the colorless vibration at the lower end of the spectrum, opposing the colorless vibration at the upper end of the spectrum. Both ends ultimately are swallowed up in darkness. One in the darkness of spirit, and the other in the darkness of matter. Number 9. Life lives in darkness and dies in light. Form lives in light and dies in darkness. But in dying really comes to life, for life as we know it is pure death. Life as we know it is pure death. Number 10. Natural darkness is unawakened possibility. False darkness is perverted opportunity. All right, so somebody give me an explanation of what false darkness is compared to natural darkness in your own words. Because what he's talking about here, as far as I understand, as far as natural darkness, is that which we cannot comprehend with our human mind. But it is preeminent, pre-existent, and primordial to the manifest dimension. When he talks about perverted darkness or false darkness, what we're actually talking about is consciousness being lost in matter, or as he says, perverted. So whereas on one end of the spectrum we're talking about something that we can't really comprehend because it's beyond us, the other is so beneath us that spirit becomes lost within it. And I can see that this would lead to what we call the sins, right? The sins that poison the self. But let me know what you gather from this so far. If you are brave enough to type that into the chat. If not, I understand. Let's keep going. The philosophy of opportunity. 11. If it were not for opportunity in its various forms, there would be no perversion of power. There is an old saying, opportunity makes the thief. Think about that saying. Opportunity makes the thief. A lot of people are not criminals simply because they haven't had the opportunity yet. A lot of people are not killers simply because they haven't had the opportunity yet. A lot of people, and you can insert any terrible word, murderers, rapists, thieves, whatever. A lot of people aren't those things yet because they haven't had the opportunity to do that. Whereas a certain kind of individual doesn't have the tendency to be that kind of person. So when the opportunity presents itself, we naturally make a better choice. Some people don't have that quality about themselves. MC Maestro says natural darkness is the state that perceivable matter was replicated from. Perverted darkness is the perceivable matter realized in its own box, container, and rules. Yeah, I like that. Perceivable matter realized in its own box, in its own container, and its own rules. Peace, Brittany Vibes. Congratulations. I hear that you just graduated law school this morning. Right after the lunar eclipse. Very interesting. Solid. Very solid. Promising future. Promising present. Go celebrate. Jacob McNugget says there's a physical correspondence, them in your glands. Pineal, thyroid. Oh, yeah, chakras. Right. Sankofa Sound says false darkness, like the dark side fad, or what humans call evil. Right. That's false darkness. I'm a dark side being. Rachel Tracy says natural darkness represents a realm of quantum field of potential possibilities, whereas false darkness becomes distorted through consciousness of a particular aligned will. Okay, I like that. And that does speak to that last line that he said about perverted opportunity. It seems that this stuff is rather neutral until the human being comes along. Let's continue. So, number 11. If it were not for opportunity in its various forms, there would be no perversion of power. There's an old saying, opportunity makes the thief. Opportunity is the eternal temptation. Without temptation, there could be no sinners. Therefore, when the higher powers brought man opportunity, they also brought him sin and death. The one who brought him light brought him also false darkness. Light and shadow are inseparable. The shadow of light is the false darkness. For the creation of the first automatically brings the second. So take what you understand about real, true darkness versus false darkness, and understand that true darkness is actually light. It's just light that we cannot comprehend, so it appears dark to us. That's light. Now that light naturally brings with us a shadow, and that shadow is what we call sin. It's what we call confusion and perversion. But check this out. There is no shadow without something standing in front of the light. So the light has to be hitting something for it to cast a shadow. This is why I say this stuff is really neutral, except for when there's an individual standing in the way. When there's a human being or a separated individual consciousness, this stuff becomes what is left out or what isn't absorbed. Right? Lucifer, son of the morning. Light and shadow are inseparable. Understand that. The incomprehensible also creates material hell. Richard Tracy says, I'm having trouble understanding what was meant in part 9. For life as we know it is pure death. Can you elaborate a bit on that part? Absolutely. Let us elaborate. That Slaps says, the individual observer collapses the wave and chooses which type of darkness is energized. Exactly. So understand your role in this whole equation. Life ain't happening to you. Understanding that right there, what you just said, nullifies any weak argument about, oh, the Illuminati's doing this to us. Oh, this secret group out here is making us do this. And oh, this is happening to us, we gotta. All that becomes nullified when you understand what you just said. The individual observer collapses the wave and chooses which type of darkness is energized. I don't have to check with the Illuminati before I do what I need to do. Do you? So what you worried about them for? It's probably because you had that type of relationship with authority figures growing up. And since you no longer have those authority figures, you've projected those feelings onto some invisible group. But anyways, let's go back over number 9. Life lives in darkness and dies in light. Form lives in light and dies in darkness. But in dying really comes life. For life as we know it is pure death. So look what he says. He separates life from form. The first, we're talking about life. Life lives in darkness and dies in light. Then he talks about form. Form lives in light and dies in darkness. So what we're really talking about, if we take this Kabbalistically, this is why I love Kabbalah, because you can use it as a cipher key to unlock the mysteries. That's why we study Kabbalah, because it serves as a cipher key to unlock the mysteries. The 2 pillars of the tree, the positive and the negative pillar, represent force and form. So right here, if he's talking about form, form lives in light. We use this light to see form, but it dies in darkness. When the lights go out, you can't see form no more. And then let's talk about force. Let's use life and use the word force. Force lives in darkness and dies in light. You can't see force. You can't detect force with the 5 senses. But without those senses, life is abundant. So, force lives in darkness and dies in light. Form lives in light and dies in darkness. But in dying really comes to life. For life as we know it is pure death. Life as we know it, right? Because when he says they're in light, dies in light and lives in light, what he's talking about is being perceived, the light of the mind, being perceived. So, in the death and removing the consciousness from the senses of perception, we're able to experience life itself. But that appears to be death to form. That appears to be death to form. So when the 5 senses are taken away from a human perspective, oh, what a terrible, sad thing. We must mourn and cry, right? Because it looks like the end. But from the opposite perspective, life has begun again. Because the force is limited in form. The form must be broken. Just like what he said earlier, a few paragraphs before, we all come through, we're all children of Saturn. We all come through the gate of Binah. We all enter into the veil of Maya, and we take on several bodies. We take on an etheric body, an astral body, a mental body, and then a physical body. In order for that seed of spirit to be released again to freedom, those bodies must be broken, shattered, dissolved. Must. That's why clinging on to them brings suffering and reincarnation. Richard Tracy says, is force on the pillar of mercy? Absolutely. Absolutely. The pillar of mercy is the masculine pillar and also the pillar of force. Force. Think of the 2 top Sephirah, right? That's where we get these names from. Mercy and severity. Those actually come from the middle Sephirah. Chesed and Gibura, Jupiter and Mars. But the true function of those pillars deal with the heads of those pillars. So the head of the pillar of severity is Saturn. And that is where we enter into the state of form for the first time. So that is the pillar of form. Form is created with Saturn. Form is shattered with Mars. And then form is analyzed with Mercury. On the other side, force spurts out into the universe with Chokmah. It gathers, accumulates, and expands with Jupiter. And then it disperses again in a system of nature in Venus. So we got the pillar of force and the pillar of form. I hope that adds clarity, because we're going to the next part. All right, so one more time. The one who brought him light brought him also the false darkness. Light and shadow are inseparable. The shadow of light is the false darkness. For the creation of the first automatically brings the second. To be free from temptation, man must be free from reason. To be free from temptation, man must be free from reason. To be free from darkness, he must renounce light. You got to stop playing the game. The only way to win this game is to stop playing the game. It's not Black Lives Matter. It's not Blue Lives Matter. It's not All Lives Matter. How do you stop playing the game? It's not Republican, Democrat. How do you stop playing the game? It's not Russia versus Ukraine. How do you stop playing the game? To be free from temptation, man must be free from reason. To be free from darkness, he must renounce light. Thus, he becomes the renouncer of opposites. We read about this in the Kabbalion. In order to stabilize and neutralize the principle of rhythm, you got to chill in the middle. You got to chill in the center. You got to neutralize the swing of both extremes and become the balance. The balance. You don't have any stock in either side. Listen, all this duality, all this opposition, all this swinging back and forth exists without you. You don't even have to be here. It's going to happen anyway. It's not your fight. It's not your game. So why are you playing it? It's going to happen with or without your presence. It's not yours. Thus he becomes a renouncer of opposites. For in accepting one opposite, he must need accept the other. 12. Temptation is the price that the human race pays for intelligence. Temptation is the price that the human race pays for intelligence. Therefore, the serpent of wisdom is also the eternal tempter. When man learns with his growing intelligence of the powers of nature and, most of all, of the power that he himself possesses, there comes with that increasing knowledge ever greater responsibilities. When man learns with his growing intelligence of the powers of nature and, most of all, of the power that he himself possesses, there comes with that increasing knowledge ever greater responsibilities. With great knowledge comes great with great power comes great responsibility. Spider-Man. If man today knew of the God powers that lie dormant within him, he would be the most dangerous creature in the universe, both to himself and to the plan of things. The soul must grow with the knowledge that it gains. Otherwise, the organisms will ultimately destroy each other. Action and reaction must build strength of character, so that will is always strong enough to curb the desires. When this is not the case and desire runs rampant, then regardless of the position of the organism in the path of unfoldment, a black magician is created. How about that? P.E. Vader 859 says, how do you stop playing the game? Understanding the balance point, my man. Understanding the balance point. Hurt Blessings TV says, when did Travis transition in genders? Where did you get this news? Because I didn't hear it yet. You watching too much porn, my friend. The science of breaking presuppositions, MC Maestro. Exactly. MC Maestro says, sounds like Anakin. Right. A black magician is created. Richard Tracy says, and Jim Quick says, the opposite is true also. With great responsibility comes great power. Yes. It's easy. MC Maestro says, can you give an example of limiting these desires, Netzach, with Hod in a practical sense? Limiting the desires. Yes. Yes, actually. Okay, so let's say, for example, you are a young man who starts to develop feelings for a woman friend, right? Now, the feelings that are starting to develop are a result of Netzach, of Venus. But the thing is, those feelings are not reciprocated. And you know that logically, but you can't stop those feelings. So, if you just let things be as they are, there isn't much resistance to what's already developing. Otherwise, it wouldn't have developed in the first place. So, corrective action has to be taken on the opposite side. So, at least from my frame of reference, when it comes to the Hod aspect, I'd start engaging on the study of self, human relations, the other gender, and within that study, start to understand my place in the mix. Maybe I can see why I'm starting to feel this way. Maybe I can see why I'm developing feelings, right? Using logic to counter emotion. Not simply telling yourself, but using what you've learned about the subject. And hopefully in that process, you'll be able to make a decision that is more practical, more balanced, and not fueled entirely by emotion. Let me know if that's a good example or if I should use another one. Netzach. I have to put a hard E in Netzach because I know. Elisha Eternal says, great example. Maestro says, another if you can, please. Well, the best way to think about Netzach versus Hod is study versus practice, right? The Orphic path versus the Hermetic path. When it comes to something that you want in life, a material thing specifically, when it comes to desiring a material thing specifically, a lot of times we try to attract it with pure will. We fantasize about it all the time, think about it all the time, visualize it all the time, etc. We don't spend enough time actually studying how to get it. For example, for people who want to be musicians and they want to rap and they want to produce or they want to be in a band or whatever, they often think that you just make music, but that's not going to get you there. What gets you there is learning the business side too. You got to put practice in. You got to learn some type of networking, some type of development, right? So you got to counterbalance the study and the practice. Too much on one side doesn't get you as far as you'd like to go. All right, let's continue. 13. Man has no free will at the present time. It's not the first time you heard that on this channel. Man has no free will at the present time, but merely the power of choice over a certain area of incidents brought by his ever-growing consciousness within the scope of his comprehension. Again, man has no free will at the present time, but merely the power of choice over a certain area of incidents brought by his ever-growing consciousness within the scope of his comprehension. Thank you, Al Dickey. I appreciate you. These incidents have been differentiated by his evolving organisms from the dark primum hyle, or true blackness. The greater his growth, the larger the area of his choices, and the greater his independence. The greater his growth, the larger the area of his choices, and the greater his independence. Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Why has been the eternal question in nature, and the letter Y is its phonetic equivalent, for it forms the sling, right? You know, the slingshot. Y forms the sling that hurls the white stone. Who remembers the book about the white stone? What's it called? It starts with a P. Plumeria on the white stone, is it? Something like that? Written by a pseudonym of Kenneth Grant. Nobody knows what I'm talking about? All right. I know Sankofa knows. Somebody knows. But anyways, Y has been the eternal question in nature, and the letter Y is its phonetic equivalent, for it forms the sling that hurls the white stone at the forehead of Goliath. The latter represents the false darkness, Goliath, the false darkness, while the stone represents true illumination. There we go. I see quite a few of you guys know what I'm talking about. Excellent. Now, who actually has the PDF? Next question is, who actually read it, if any of it? Might be a sign to go ahead and tap back into it. Number 14. In Egypt, the point where the arms of the Y converge was called the forking of the ways. The candidate for spiritual things always stands at the point where the three arms of the Y come together, carrying in his hand the scales of discrimination. As long as he measures blindfolded, his weights will be just. But woe unto him if he removes his blindfold. For the two eyes themselves give birth to good and evil. Do y'all get that metaphor? The metaphor of weighing things with your eyes closed to make sure that it is balanced and fair. But with the eyes open, you might see that you get a little bit more over here while the other person ain't looking. That is evil. That's where good and evil come into play. When the human consciousness is involved, when the ego is involved, I should say, not the human consciousness, it's the ego that does that. So he talks about the scales of discrimination. Discrimination. And just like on the Tree of Life, the first virtue that must be mastered is discrimination. And just like in this book that I already held up, Gyan Yoga, discrimination is what is developed in order to progress upon the path. 15. The diagram accompanying this paragraph shows the Y. Cool. So check this out. The path of human progress and the forking of the ways. Let's talk about it. The line passing through, the diagram accompanying this paragraph shows the Y of choice passing upward through the four creations of Brahma. The line passing through the circle shows the path of evolution through those kingdoms of nature where there is no conscious reason. So let's look at the kingdoms where there are no conscious reason. In other words, no revolt against the laws of God. So we talk about laws of God, right? We are mature enough to understand that it's not a law that some man wrote with his man hands on a piece of parchment paper or a stone tablet. But these rules, these laws of God, are the laws of existence. Meaning, if I were to drop this book, gravity's going to pull it to the ground. I don't have to agree with that. I don't have to have an opinion about that. It is what it is. So there are certain laws that take place in this universe, right? Now, as long as we're within the realm of creation the natural kingdom, we have to obey these laws. But guess what? There's a point where you start to have a choice. There's illusion of choice, and then there's the choice itself. So let's analyze. Let's check this out. Let's check this out. At the very bottom, ooh, check that out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The first sphere looks like the period of spiritual gestation, the prenatal epoch. 9. All right, so 9 months. Check out that 9. The point of spiritual birth. Bam. Then it goes up here, the physical world. And we'll save that for later. Physical worlds, right? Plural. Then he says the first Masonic initiation happens here at that crux, at that junction point. Now we're dealing with the etheric plane. See, I'm not making this stuff up. It's right here in the black and white across multiple texts. The etheric plane. Here we got the second Masonic initiation, which gives you a knowledge and understanding of the astral plane, right? Now here's the third Masonic initiation. This is the point where paths of magic divide. At this point, and not before, is where you now have the choice. What's that say at the top? What's that say at the top? It didn't happen down here on YouTube or Instagram. It didn't happen down here at church. It didn't happen down here when you bought a E.A. Coetting book, Michael W. Ford book, or when you started watching Bobby Hemmett. It didn't happen down here. Look at what happens up here when you get that initiation into the mental plane. What happens up there? Up there is the point where you begin to choose the left-hand path. You see that? Left-hand path, black magic, attainment through force. Attainment through force, left-hand path. Or the right-hand path, white magic, attainment through growth. Nothing to do with what kind of clothes you wear or what kind of pictures you post on social media. Nothing to do with what kind of YouTube videos you watch or what type of TikTok videos you obsess over. Uh-oh. Lance Benefield says, does anyone else see the question I'm asking, Trav? I don't see a question that you're asking. Last thing it looks like you said is peace, Al. MC Maestro says, getting your manifestations from the demon or from removing your blockages, right? And if you paid attention to what I'm doing, notice how I started with that left path. And at this point, when I talk to people, when I give consultations, we deal with that path of removing blockages. Why? At least from my experience, it seems to be more effective. More effective not just in accomplishing the task, but also empowering the individual with the knowledge that they can indeed do this without help from anyone else. Resources that you already contain. One of my favorite parts about helping people is that I show them resources that they've had the whole time. I don't teach you something new. I don't make up something for you to repeat to yourself. I don't give you some ritual. I literally show you what you already have that you just aren't even utilizing. I think that's a much better method than telling somebody about some random demon that they never heard of. And I understand why it works, because we have a tendency to go for the next new thing. The next new thing. Oh, well, maybe the crystals will do it for me. Oh, maybe the demons will do it for me. But if you remove the blockage, you remove the problem. You don't have to find a new way to solve it. You remove the problem completely. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is all about summoning every demon possible. And who am I to talk, right? I've already done that for myself. Maybe you need to do that for yourself. Lance Benefield says, every time I write Cash App, it doesn't show in the chat. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't set anything like that. It must be a YouTube thing. Y'all all right? Richard Tracy says yes, because that empowers them instead of relying on an external source. Right. Precisely that. And what I've learned in my time here is that empowering yourself works better in the long run than relying on an external force. Yeah, you can do both ways, but you risk the possibility of continuing your problem just with a couple band-aids on it now. Lance Benefield says, I'm asking for yours, Trav. Okay, I got you. My Cash App is LVX777. It's the money sign LVX777. Try to keep it simple. You should see my picture with the devil horns. Okay, let's continue. Great diagram. So let's keep going. The small ring where the three lines meet. Right there. The small ring where the three lines meet shows the present position of the human ego dwelling in the mind of Brahma. From it, the path branches. Man must now choose his own way instead of depending upon nature. He has, in spirit and in truth, reached the point where the scales of Libra have been inserted by cutting the sign of Scorpio Virgo in two, and thus dividing the way of unfoldment. 16. During the first half of this fourth globe, the great ones come to man and strengthen him for his choice and give him basic instructions through which he should learn to redeem his own soul. We know these demigods now only as mythological characters, but they were the ones who labored with the human mind while it was still in the making and planted therein the seeds of discrimination, which is the ultimate redeemer of human reason. Those who follow the right-hand path enter into one of the 7 rays which lead to immortality, while those who follow the left-hand path enter the ray that leads to ultimate crystallization. Doesn't it make sense? Aren't you seeking to be an individual from creation? So the result would be crystallization. I'll read that again. Those who follow the right-hand path enter into one of the 7 rays which lead to immortality, while those who follow the left-hand path enter the ray that leads to ultimate crystallization. And as a suggestion, guys, when you're looking up first of all, research what if these are phrases that you like to use on a regular basis, right? If you like to use the phrase left-hand path, right-hand path, if you enjoy using those phrases, my suggestion is to research them, right? I know you know what they mean already, but guess what? There's a lot of stuff that I know already and I still research it because I'm open to learning more. I'm open to being incorrect. I just want to know the truth. I don't care if I was wrong, right? I just want to know the truth. So if you're using these words, left-hand path, right-hand path, it would behoove you to research them more and more and more to get the most comprehensive understanding of what these phrases mean. There's a chance that they mean something way more than what you've been using them for. There's a chance. There's also a chance that they're not even necessary concepts to be thinking about. Mainly because it's not something that you're dealing with right now. It's not useful or appropriate for most people, I would say. .40 shot, Kosher Corver, peace. Coagula, peace. Coagula, no, Cybernet, peace. Cosmic Traveler, peace, peace. Alright, so again, those who follow the right-hand path enter into one of the 7 rays which lead to immortality, while those who follow the left-hand path enter the ray that leads to ultimate crystallization. Both lead to darkness. But check this out. One to the immortal darkness of divine union, and the other to the mortal darkness of divine annihilation. The accompanying diagram may make this point clearer. Ooh. The power of choice, God's greatest gift to man, and the cause of all suffering, the hope of immortality. So let's talk about the left-hand path. And another thing, if you're using these phrases, don't just lean on the person you heard them from. If you hear me say a certain word, like tatwas or buddhi or ahamkara, if you hear me or anyone else say a certain phrase and you like it and you keep using it, figure out the origin of that phrase. I didn't make those phrases up. You'd want to look into Samkhya. You'd want to look into Gyan Yoga to get a true definition of what those words mean, because even though I'm using these words, you might derive a better understanding from the source. So if someone says left-hand path, right-hand path, look into history where those words came from and see what the original meanings or see what the original intentions of those words were. It's not so much about labels and hardcore specifics. It's about proximity, right? It's about context, right? And when I say proximity, I mean look at the subject matter that's involved within. It didn't just exist by itself. No one just said left-hand path and no, it's left-hand path in reference to a right-hand path, right? But where did that all come from? None of these people talking about it today made it up. So you have to continue to look in history to get a clear definition of this. If what you want is understanding. If you don't want understanding, keep doing whatever you're doing because you're doing it right. You're doing it right for you. But if you want to understand these concepts at a deeper level, it will only serve you to research the origin. Now, let's go. The left-hand path, the fruitage of black magic. Those who take this path, which is number one right here, as you can see, this is the left-hand path. This over here is the right-hand path. I wonder what this is. I wonder what this number 2 is over the page 11. Artemis in Theory, peace. Artemis in Theory says, so thankful for this community exists. Awesome. Me too. The fruitage of black magic. Those who take this path, number 1, left-hand path, choose that their immortal spirits shall be the servants of lower bodies. In this way, involving themselves in an ever denser materiality and enmeshing their consciousness more and more in matter. What I was saying at the beginning of this video, before some impatient young person tried to rush me to read, was we were talking about this whole thing about Christ casting out the demons, the legion, into those pigs. On Instagram, somebody asked me, is Christ one of the legion or something like that? But my explanation was that when we're dealing with the Christ, what we're dealing with is purified consciousness. We're dealing with a figure, a character, a symbol that represents purified consciousness operating matter. Purusha and Prakriti, right here in the flesh. When we're dealing with these demons of legion, right? It's legion because they're also undifferentiated, but on the negative spectrum, right? They're undifferentiated in so much that they're mingled with matter. They're so mingled and mixed with matter that they're no longer individuals. They're so wrapped up in matter that it's consciousness that thinks it's matter and matter that thinks it's consciousness. It's legion. That's an endless state, and many sparks of consciousness find themselves as a member of legion, believing that they are matter, that they are the material plane. Now, the reason that Christ is able to cast those demons out of people is because Purusha is the word, is the logos. And Purusha, by default of its existence, has dominion over Prakriti, matter, nature. Nature must follow the pattern of consciousness. Nature does only what consciousness commands it to do. It follows the pattern of consciousness, and it has no other choice. So when you have the symbol of Christ casting out demons, you're looking at another example of consciousness controlling matter. MC Maestro says, Trav, don't hate on the young and TikToker. They were impatient, had to hit up the Roblox mosque soon after. I understand. Roblox mosque, and I know it's real too. Did you see the one meme with all the Dragon Ball Z characters converting to Islam and doing their prayer, and Goku growing out his beard and everybody dressed in white doing their prayers? Yeah, man. Cradle of Humankind, peace, peace. Cybernet says, would Legion be a virgin of madness in semi-embodied state, like a rudderless hive mind? Absolutely, but don't stretch your imagination too deep, because you're also describing the human race. Right? We are also a rudderless hive mind, for the most part, right? The percentage of individuals who are breaking away from that state is very minimal. That Slaps says, got a new book, Jesus Purusha by Ian Davey, that connects the Logos concepts. Oh, that's cool. I gotta check that out. Let me put that on my phone so I don't forget it. Jesus Purusha by Ian Davey. Sounds interesting. It exists. A Vedanta-based doctrine of Jesus. Ooh. At a very affordable $51. How much did you pay for yours? 144 pages. That's not bad. I might check that out. Okay, so we were talking about the left-hand path. And those who take this path choose that their immortal spirits shall be the servants of lower bodies. Oh my. Almost had to sneeze. I don't want anyone saying bless you. Those who take this path choose that their immortal spirits shall be the servants of lower bodies. In this way, involving themselves in ever denser materiality and enmeshing their consciousness more and more in matter. That's why I went back over that story. If this practice is persisted in long enough, the spirit will be unable to disentangle itself from the substances of the lower worlds, and must remain enmeshed therein until the dissolution of the universe at the time of the night of Brahma, when the divine spark is cast back into the blackness of the infinite through the rings of Saturn. By taking this path, the ego attains darkness, but it is the darkness of the tomb and of unconsciousness reached through the path of perversion and negation. Its reward is the black death and the loss of the soul. Such an ego wanders in a great unknown without hope, reason, or understanding, while the endless wheels of chaos dissolve the bodies of which it has failed to make the proper use. Check that out. It kind of makes me wonder why certain people would choose to teach a doctrine that leads to that. It genuinely makes me wonder why an individual would do a whole life's work, a whole campaign to lead people to that outcome. What do you get out of that? Might be something I don't know. Might be something I'm not aware of. Maybe there is some benefit in doing that. Maybe these are people who've understood how to work with consciousness which becomes entangled up within matter? I don't know. I'm sure there's got to be some benefit to leading people down that path. Otherwise, we wouldn't have so many people popping up throughout history to do that. Something to research. Let's continue. The right-hand path. The fruitage of the white magic. In taking this path, number 3, the spirit identifies itself with those who choose to liberate the divine essence from its bodies and to have them for servants rather than masters. The consciousness unwinds itself from matter in a spiral motion and functions in ever finer substances until it completely disentangles itself from form and consciously attains the resurrection. In so doing, it gains the powers to mold matter into whatever forms are necessary for its labors. It crosses over into the worlds of spirit, and in doing so, enters what man can know only as darkness. Light is a form of emanation, and when we enter the divine presence, we enter the omnipotent darkness. This is the living shade over which we have perfect power, and which contains within itself all things in unawakened potentiality. We have allied ourselves with the dark cause, the womb of light, and have become molders of the cosmic scheme. So that is a stark contrast to what was described earlier. And now I see why he set it up the way he did. Before, he talked about this darkness, which is actually incomprehensible light, and then another darkness, which is a perversion of the relationship with matter. And how one path leads to more of that, and one path leads to more of the other. Now there's another path that I saw on that page. It looked like it was going down the middle. Let's see what that was about. Path number 2. Path number 2 represents the non-existing spiritual equator dividing the poles, and is that ridge which divides the black and the white paths. Like that mystic line which separates day from night, in this the spirit ignores opportunity, rejects reason, and in this way comes under the law and mystery of the mechanics of opportunity. What is that? The mechanics of opportunity, 18. All action immediately sets into motion the law of reaction, which the ancients have called the law of karma. All action immediately sets into motion the law of reaction, which the ancients have called the law of karma, which is the factor employed by nature for the creation of the soul. For what? For the creation of the soul. The rejecting or ignoring of opportunity, falling under the law of indifference and inertia, fails to result in a reaction. This in turn results in the starving of the soul. My Bible verse people aren't here, but there's a Bible verse about how Christ talked about one church which was neither hot nor cold. They were lukewarm. So he spit them out of his mouth. Oh yeah, we're talking about the same thing. That's in Revelations. This in turn results in the starving of the soul. Those who have ignored experience are called the soulless creations, and are in the same position as those kingdoms which, like the angels, have not been given individual intelligence. Are we talking about NPCs here? Let me go back and say that again. Those who have ignored experience are called soulless creations, the soulless creations, and are in the same position as those kingdoms which, like the angels are artificial intelligence, like the angels, have not been given individual intelligence. The law of reaction immediately starts incorporating into the organisms of the fruitage of the outpoured endeavor. In this way, slowly transmuting the entire chain of vehicles into intelligent symbols or images of the path chosen by the consciousness. We're onto something. That's the Holy Spirit. Nice. I done whipped out my highlighter for the first time. Because this is a concept that I don't think I've seen or heard before. I don't spit it. That's the Holy Spirit. That's the Holy Spirit spitting automatically, systematically. The Holy Spirit spitting a lot. The law of reaction immediately starts incorporating into the organisms the fruitage of the outpoured endeavor, right? So whatever endeavor has been taken upon the individual, this law of karma, law of reaction, immediately starts incorporating into the organisms the fruit of your labor. Immediately. You don't have to wait for karma. Karma is right now. In this way, slowly transmuting the entire chain of vehicles, physical body, etheric body, astral body, mental body, causal body, slowly transmuting the entire chain of vehicles into intelligent symbols or images of the path chosen by the consciousness. What? Do you understand what that means? That now your etheric body, astral body, and mental body become symbols of the path you've chosen. 11:11. Oh, what a coincidence. Oh, this happened today. Oh, this happened yet. Why do you think that's happening? And it starts happening more and more and more and more. MC Maestro says mysteries of the crucifixion. He's hinting at it, where the higher self delivers the vision to the lower mind. As one pole or the other slowly grows within the being, the atoms of the opposing substances are slowly crowded or forced out or sloughed off for lack of cohesion. The battle of these opposing qualities in the various organisms of life forms the groundwork for the Great War of India, or the Armageddon of Christian theology. Wait a minute. So what's the Great War of India called? It's in the Bhagavad Gita, right? What's that Great War called? Because the Christian equivalent is Armageddon. And while every Christian in America is waiting for Armageddon to happen at any moment now, and by the way, have been waiting for hundreds of years. Thank you, MC Maestro. Mahabharat, Armageddon. Been waiting for it. And what the esoteric occultist understands is that this is an individual experience for each person. The battle of these opposing qualities in the various organisms of life forms the groundwork for the Great War of India, or the Armageddon of Christian theology. Through this subtle process, the student, living the white path, slowly starves out or else transmutes the powers of the black ray within himself. That is, if he is able to stand the conflict, which must first take place in his bodies. Whoa. Maybe this is why these people are seeing Armageddon all over the place. Look, y'all, the Illuminati. Oh, what's happening? Jesus coming back, y'all. Maybe they're going through this experience of great change of their inner bodies. Woo! Underworld God 500. Peace. I don't know. Somebody understands what I'm talking about. Maybe, just maybe. I suppose most of y'all are just listening and absorbing all this information. But I know that somebody hears what the hell this dude is saying in this book. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm over exaggerating. Maybe this is too serious for me. Yeah, let me go back and highlight that part. Jesus. Waiting for the war of Armageddon to happen, to pop off any day now. I remember following that stuff, and every time a president was elected, oh, he's going to be the Antichrist. Oh, he's the Antichrist, guys. You got to look out. And everyone had these lists of why Obama was the Antichrist, of why Trump was the Antichrist, of why Biden is the Antichrist. And they're going to keep doing it. They're going to keep doing it. People are going to keep eating it up. Through this subtle process, the student living the white path slowly starves out, or else transmutes, the powers of the black ray within himself. That is, if he is able to stand the conflict, which must first take place in his bodies. It first takes place in your mental body, your astral body. Emotions going ham. Your etheric body, energy all fucked up. Physical body, sick, parasites, bones ain't working, muscles ain't working right. All kind of stuff just falling apart. Uh-oh. On the other hand, the student who takes the black path slowly eliminates or destroys all of the finer principles within until he becomes a very demon incarnate. Ooh. Once having destroyed conscience, he does evil for the joy of it. And by the way, I mentioned the negative aspect. There's also positive aspects. So say that this war of Armageddon, Mahabharat, is happening in our mental bodies, astral bodies, etheric bodies, physical bodies. But because we are in alignment with our purpose, we're in alignment with our beliefs, we're in alignment with our identity, these things are happening, and we're winning the war. We're winning the battle. Just people out here losing that fight. We're winning this problem. Definitions of magic. Magic is the art of manipulating the unseen forces of nature. Because if you don't know, now you know. So I'm outside of the club and you think I'm a punk. Then I go to the loaded Tech 9 and open the trunk. I told him, I ain't never scared. I ain't never scared. East side, west side, south side. Okay, so the definition of magic. Magic is the art of manipulating the unseen forces of nature. And didn't he have a book called The Unseen Forces? So we know all about what those forces are. Baby. Peace. A magician is one who is capable of juggling the four elements of bodies. A magician is one who is capable of consciously molding the substances of matter of the 3.5 worlds of material substance. Notice he said 3.5. Astral plane, mental plane, physical plane. Hold on. Causal plane, mental plane, astral plane. The half would be the etheric plane. 19. A white magician is one who is laboring to gain the confidence of the powers that be, and to prove, through the purity of his life and the sincerity of his motive, his worthiness to be entrusted with the great arcana, the wand of the Magus. Stray Panther says, is this an explanation of ascension symptoms? Absolutely. Absolutely. B Field says, LOL, yeah, you definitely from Georgia. Attention! Oozing through your cerebellum. Alright, so a white magician is one who is laboring to gain the confidence of the powers that be and to prove through the purity of his life and the sincerity of his motive, his worthiness to be entrusted with the great arcana, the wand of the Magus. A black magician is one who seeks to gain authority over spiritual powers by means of force rather than by means of merit. In other words, he's one who is trying to storm the gates of heaven. And if I look at mythology, I see that that archetype always ends up getting kicked out of heaven and has to pay a hefty fine for eating the grapes of immortality or drinking the elixir of immortality or generally stirring up a riot. In other words, he is one who is trying to storm the gates of heaven. He is the one who is seeking spiritual power and occult dominion with an ulterior motive. The black magician's motto is, might is right. If you guys don't know, there's a book called Might is Right. It's actually really hard to get. I think it's out of print. Might is right. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but there may be some things in there that are interesting to learn about the mind of your fellow human being. Ragnar, that's his Ragnar Redbeard. Might is right. Survival of the fittest. Oh, never mind. They've got plenty of copies. Yeah, so if you care to check that out, you can look that up. So the black magician's motto is might is right, survival of the fittest. The white magician's motto is right is might, survival of all. Gray magic is the unconscious or subconscious perversion of power. Yellow magic is the failure to learn how to prevent the perversion of power. Yellow. Black magic is the use of spiritual powers to gratify animal or selfish proclivities. White magic is the right use of spiritual power consciously and objectively. Every living person is in one of these four classes. Every living person is in one of these four classes. Let me read these classes again. And you don't have to say it out loud, but let's see. I'm not going to run a poll so everyone can vote, because everybody would vote black magic, right? Gray magic is the unconscious or subconscious perversion of power. Yellow magic is the failure to learn how to prevent the perversion of power. Black magic is the use of spiritual powers to gratify animal or selfish proclivities. White magic is the right use of spiritual power consciously and objectively. Every living person is in one of these four categories. It is important that each should analyze himself and see just which class he is in. There is nothing in all the universe so subtle as the powers of false darkness. It's subtle. And I'll be honest, it sounds a lot like when Sister Shruti, Swami Satchisangananda Saraswati, was describing ego, ahamkara, in Tatva Shruti. Sounds like that to me. Black Gold says prejudice book. Black, Chinese, white. You know better than that. Wrong channel for that kind of stuff. 20. Every living person is in one of these 4 classes. It is important that each should analyze himself and see just which class he is in. There's nothing in all the universe so subtle as the powers of false darkness. We must go over our lives every day, for we never reach a place of safety. The more power we have, the greater light we have. The stronger the temptation to abuse it or to use it for self-gratification. We must learn to realize that the greater the knowledge, the greater the penalty for abusing it. The sin that is excusable in the child is unforgivable in a man. I mean, I can think of a couple crimes that if a 12-year-old were to do it, it would not welcome a punishment as much as if a 40-year-old man would do it. The sin that is excusable in the child is unforgivable in a man. Woo! Woo! 21. Motive is the key to the problem of magic. Motive. Motive is the key to the problem of magic. So we're talking about ignorance, cowardice, deliberate misuse, and deliberate correct use. Motive is the key to the problem of magic. Even the greatest of white magicians can become a degenerate in an instant if his motive becomes unworthy. Can become a degenerate in an instant. Whew. The white magician serves humanity. The black magician seeks to serve himself. Uh-oh. What happened to my camera? MC Maestro says the sheathing of the intent matrix by the other frame matrices. What in the world is going on with my camera? Richard Tracy says Mercury retrograde and CIA are messing with Trav's camera again. Oh man. We gotta. Lance Benfield says, beat as a child. You read that in the Bible somewhere, right? Well, let's keep going anyways, because we're almost at the end of this particular session. 22. 21. 22. The black magic of the past, the darkness that sank Atlantis when man made slaves of the demons of the elements and chained them to do his bidding, still survives to this day. The black magic of the Middle Ages, with its witchcraft and orgies, is not dead. Only its form has changed, like all other forms in nature. It has incarnated again in our age, with all its power and fury. It is gnawing as in the days of old, at the very heart of our civilization, and if left unredeemed, will tear down and destroy our race. Under the garb of right, it masquerades as the messenger of the Most High. Yet under its oral promises forever lurks the menace of the goat of Mendes. In its false shadows hides the furies of hell and the vampires of the astral plane. Sunshine Chick, good to see you. Peace, peace. 23. As the black magician has no legitimate means of securing his power, not having passed through the school of reclamation, he wanders the earth like the werewolves of old, vampirizing humanity to secure the vitality which he must have to continue his operations. And speaking of operations, prana is the fuel for existence, right? It takes certain types of prana to do certain types of work. If you're somebody who wants to start this business and you want to help a lot of people and you got this grand scheme, this grand idea, it takes a level of prana to be able to execute that. If you're somebody that just wants to wake up, sit on the couch all day, eat something from somebody else's fridge, and try to get you something at the end of the night, it doesn't take much prana to do that. In fact, that's animal level prana. Animals can do that, and animals do that frequently. But the thing is, Prakriti provides enough prana for your role, because it's a system of repetition. It just replicates and does what is easier, the path of least resistance. So if you want to break that pattern and do something that can potentially change the matrix that you're existing in, it's going to take a different quality of prana than what you are currently receiving. And prana comes from all types of different places, doesn't it? I don't know, maybe. It comes from the food, it comes from the air that we breathe, it comes from our practice. I mean, just think, when we talk about food, a lot of people get all mixed up and butthurt about GMO and they're doing this to the food and da-da-da-da-da. But honestly, that doesn't really matter. The important aspect of that is that the food that is grown within the womb of Mother Nature is grown with a certain aspect of prana with it. The same way that food that is manufactured and processed in a factory is created with a certain quality of prana. Two different types of prana. Food and nutrients that are grown and developed, right? The forces of nature and the elements working on that tomato, that GMO tomato in the dirt, in the soil, forming it together with these natural processes. That's a type of prana. And then having a factory where a machine is cutting and pressing and separating and mixing and boiling and steaming, that's a certain type of prana infused into that food. So the whole argument about this whole GMO stuff, I mean, yes, it has validity, but when we're talking about existing with prana as your sustenance, that doesn't matter. It's something entertaining to debate about, for sure. But here's the thing, prana is a force. It isn't a concrete thing that has a title. It's a force, which means that it is interpreted based on where it is assimilated. What do I mean by that? I mean, when we're dealing, say for example, when you're dealing with that prana that is infused in the food that you eat that was grown in the womb of the earth, if that type of prana were to reach the logical mind and be translated into a word, we'd call that prana love. This is the type of prana that the earth provides, for the intent and the motive of being bountiful for the sake of being bountiful for the sake of existence. The earth gives because that's what it does. It gives. And everything that exists is sustained from the womb of nature. GMO or not. GMO wasn't created last year. It's been going on for hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years. This is something new and exciting to talk about. Nothing new under the sun, people. Nothing new under the sun. There are many fruits, vegetables, and animals that are GMO from the Bible times and beyond. And everybody's doing just fine. But then you've got these other foods that are created with a different quality of prana. And if that prana were to be interpreted by the logical human mind, the human mind might interpret that level of prana as greed, lust for profit, right? Because this prana is infused with intention. The machine doesn't give it an intention, it's just a machine. But the operator and the creator of those processes taps into a certain energy pattern to pull the concept for this thing down. The same way that you shouldn't be afraid of AI, because it is nothing but a processing equation. It's the human behind it that you have to be concerned with, as usual. So if there's things that you want to do in this world that are different from the pattern of the everyday shit, you're going to have to start increasing the quality of prana that you take in. Because the same level of prana that you use on a daily basis gets you what you already have. But if you want something greater, you have to increase the quality of your prana, which can be done by eating organic foods or natural foods or whatever. It can also be done through pranayama, breathing properly, deeply, intentionally. It can also be done by meditation practice, working with certain type of spiritual beings to infuse yourself with a certain type of prana, which can then be interpreted by the mind as the thing you're trying to do. Because the prana regulates the thoughts. Low quality animal prana gives you animal thoughts and animal behavior. High quality divine prana gives you high quality thoughts and behaviors. But enough about that. Let's get here. Motive. MC Maestro says, I hear there's a course by this Magus guy which dealt with that. Only a very small number of people were able to get that experience. And I see that those of them that are still here have certainly done something with it. So bravo to you all. 23. Oh yeah, we got on that subject because what he just said there about these black magicians and what did he say? Under the garb of right, it masquerades as the messenger of the Most High, yet its oral promises forever lurks the menace of the goat of Mendes. No. He said, as the black magician has no legitimate means of securing his power, not having passed through the school of reclamation, he wanders the earth like the werewolves of old, vampirizing humanity to secure the vitality, prana, which he must have to continue his operations. 24. All who are not consciously forfeited in the path of right are possible victims of these monsters of iniquity. All who are not consciously on the white path and firmly established in the way of sincerity and truth are in eternal danger of these harpies who float like soulless specters on the tide of evolution. They have the powers of invocation and demons who serve them, while the impartial natural law is misused hourly that they may perpetuate themselves. The power of light in their hands becomes but a scepter of death, for many hands wield spiritual powers whose hearts are dead, whose minds are rotting dens of iniquity, and whose souls have long since bid them goodbye. They are lost beyond recall to this life wave, for they have killed out even the germ of good within themselves. Yikes. Yikes. Now, interesting. I think I got my camera to work. I guess not. Well, if you guys have the book, there is a little diagram here that has a circle, spirit on top, matter on the bottom, the word God at the top, and the word dog at the bottom. Okay, they battle on, however, clinging desperately to life at any price, realizing only too well that eternity holds nothing for them. May the mercy of God rest upon them. The end of the first instruction. Spirit is matter inverted, and matter is spirit inverted. The beast is God defiled. So check that out. Here's that diagram. Spirit, matter, God, dog. Okie doke. That's it. That's the end. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As usual, Manly P. Hall is an excellent source of good quality information. And as always, do your own research. Go look up these terms. Look up some of these phrases. See if maybe you pull a different definition out of them. Right on, right on. Peace, Corporeal Chaos Consulting. Corporeal Chaos Consulting says the beast is God defiled. That's why the mark of the beast is the name. Spirit is matter. Matter is spirit. As above, so below. Purusha Prakriti. All that. So that was part 1. Tune in next time for part 2. We're getting into that juicy, spooky stuff that everybody loves. The power of demons. The power of demons. Don't want to miss that. And you don't have to miss it. You should have this book. Read ahead. See what you pull out of it. Show me something that I might have missed. Take notes. Check the index. Look over anything that you might have missed. Alright guys, this was a lot of fun. We will be going down this path, and if Manly P. Hall has a bunch of other short books, hell, we may just keep doing this until we exhaust all of them. Stay tuned. More great things on the way. For sure. For sure. So, yeah, I don't really like to keep secrets at all. It's very difficult for me. But we're getting closer and closer for me to unleash this thing that I've been talking about for so long. Hopefully by this summer, you'll be able to see it. Maybe even touch it. Who knows? Also, if you have been a part of my membership, I finally completed the updating of that membership. So it's completely revamped and completely brand new. We will have weekly pieces of information to keep you focused on Kabbalah, tarot, astrology, all the hot shit, all the hot stuff to keep you focused on your journey. In small bite-sized pieces, not 12-hour courses or 6-hour lectures, stuff that you can consume a little bit every day, a little bit every other day to keep you on track. Stay tuned for that. I'll definitely give more information if this is something you're interested in. Some of you are already a part of it, so just hold on. For the rest of you guys, I will make sure that this is something so compelling that you will basically feel stupid to say, I don't want it. All right. So, heading out. Have a great evening. Have a great evening. Black Knight says, can you do a book reading of Manly P. Hall's book, Occult Anatomy of Man? I've been flipping through it, and I've been asking that question. Do I want to take that? Do you see how thick that book is? I think it's like 500 pages. I was playing around with the idea. I don't think I want to commit to something like that, because that would definitely take several months. Now, I'll do something like that for a book that I love, like Mystical Kabbalah. I don't necessarily love that book. All right. Have a great evening, everybody. Enjoy this Sagittarius moon. Like this video on your way out, especially if you liked it. Right? Just hit the like button. It's free. And it'll make you feel good. All right, more content creation, and then I've earned myself a few hours on Fortnite. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. I love you guys. Peace. You know, because my phone camera stopped working, so I can't zoom into the other unicorn. This one does just fine. All right.